My name is Jennifer Dean, and my near-death experience was from an adverse reaction to chemotherapy treatments. When I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with acute lymphocytic leukemia, and this is 1995. They didn't particularly know what to do back then for leukemia. My parents were literally told that they knew more about leukemia in cats, so I underwent aggressive chemotherapy treatments because most of it was experimental, and they had told my parents this is a 50-50 shot, we don't really know, and I ended up having a massive adverse reaction to intrathecal chemotherapy. And this is chemotherapy that is injected into your spinal fluid because leukemia is cancer of the blood. So it can get through to the brain, through the blood-brain barrier. So they put chemotherapy in the spinal fluid to kill any cancer cells. Well, I ended up having a massive adverse reaction. And what happened was I remember it like it was yesterday. I was wheeled down to go get my first round of radiation to my brain because the radiation was part of the protocol as well. And I still have the tattoos on my face that they tattooed to make sure they have to make sure it's in the same spot every time because it's killing cells. So they wheeled me down. I was with my mom. I was sitting in my wheelchair. I was eating a piece of candy. And I was the next patient to go. And I remember they made me take out my earrings to go do this because I had earrings in because I was bald and I kind of looked like a boy because I was young, so I put earrings in. So they were like, take the earrings out, you can't have them. And I remember looking in the mirror at myself and it felt weird. I don't know. It felt like I was just staring into my soul. Like even as they were wheeling me to the University of Pennsylvania Radiation Center, which is right next to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is where I was getting my treatments. I had been in the hospital for months at that point, and I didn't even have the window looking outside. So I remember when they wheeled me out, the feeling of like the sun hitting my face and the sounds and the smells, and I was just like, took it all in. Like it felt like something was about to happen. Even when I was looking in the mirror, taking out my earrings, I sat back down in my wheelchair and I was eating my candy. Next thing you know, my head went. Like I was having a hard time holding my head up. And then my whole arm, my left arm went dead. Then my left leg went dead. And I looked over at my mom and I said, Mom, something's wrong. I don't feel good. And she panicked because my mouth was drooping. And it looked like I was having a stroke, and she was a home health aide for years. She knew what that looked like. So she ran, she got the nurse, and they immediately rushed me back to my hospital room, back over to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And at that point, I could speak still, but I was like slurring my speech. And I went ahead and they put me in my bed. They called my oncologist. He came up, and when he looked at me, he looked super scared. Like I have never seen one of my doctors look that scared. And it prompted me to say, which I slurred speech at this point, but I said, am I gonna die? Because I just looked, the fear was, I just felt it. And I was like, am I gonna die? And he said, I don't know. And then that's when I was just like, well, this is it. And I totally accepted it. I just went ahead and I accepted whatever came next. I mean, I was 14 years old at this point, and I was raised Catholic. I did believe in heaven, and whatnot. I did, have those Christian core beliefs, but I figured that this is it. I guess I'm going to heaven. And I was in palliative care too at this point. So palliative care, they kind of help you accept death, but embrace life, whereas hospice is kind of making you comfortable enough to pass on. Palliative care, it intertwines like accepting death and embracing life. So it was kind of like they just prepped me in case I died. So I was at peace with that. I was okay with that. And then all of a sudden, my left side started to come back, and I was able to talk again. And it was just weird. It kind of reversed, and the doctors were just, they didn't know what was happening. So they told me that I'm so lucky that that happened at the moment it happened, because if I had gotten that radiation treatment, the chemotherapy would have burned into my brain and I would have never have come out of it. And so at that moment, I was like, something just saved me. That was divine timing. I was the next patient to go. If it would have happened, the timing was off even a little bit, I never would have come out of that. So I just knew at that point, something is with me. I didn't name it or anything, just someone is with me, something's with me. I'm definitely just got saved. And so I was given the go-ahead to eat again, because when I lost my left side, like the gag reflex, you can choke without that. So I couldn't eat. So they tested my gag reflex. I was able to eat again. I was watching Stand By Me with my father, and I was eating my lunch, and all of a sudden I was eating a carrot, and I went to swallow the carrot, and I almost choked. And my dad looked over at me very quickly, and I looked at him and said, "It's happening again." But he said I didn't say that. There was just tears, my eyes filled with tears, and my voice was shaky, and it just sounded like gibberish. But I was trying to say, "It's happening again." And then boom, I was out. I fell unconscious. At this point, the chemotherapy was not done attacking my brain. So I slipped into a vegetative state. This was the terrifying part, where I was fully aware but locked into my body. I was just crying. I would cry and cry because I was aware, but I couldn't use my body. I couldn't communicate. I was just locked in. And at one point they did an MRI on me, and they put headphones on you when you go into an MRI because of the loud banging noise, right? And it's like an hour long, so they just give you music to listen to. Except for when they put the headphones on me, it was static that was coming through. And I could not communicate to tell them that it's just static. So they popped these headphones on and popped me in this machine. I'm here with a brain injury, basically, from the chemo, listening to static. I started to lose it. So I kept saying, "Move your feet. Move your feet," because my father was in the room with me, in the MRI room. They allowed him to sit in there, and I knew he was sitting there watching me, so I kept telling myself, "Move your feet, move your feet." And I finally was able to kick my feet a little, and my dad said he looked at me and tears were streaming down my face. He jumped up, started to pull me out of the machine. And they rushed in, they stopped, they sat me up, gave me a dry erase board and a marker to try and let me communicate what I was trying to say, but it was such a severe brain injury, my hands were like this. So I couldn't hold a marker, and I had no strength, and I just dropped everything, and I just started crying, because I was like, this is my life now. This is how my life's gonna be now. I'm gonna not be able to communicate my most basic needs. And my parents said I would just cry, and tears, the oncologist finally found out what it was. They called it leukodystrophy back then. They found this out through the intranet, because we didn't have the internet back then. So, and there was, I was the 8th case in the world, or at least in the United States, I think at that point. But every other kid that had this reaction never came out of it. So they told my parents, I'm either going to be a vegetable the rest of my life, or I'm going to be dead. So they told my family to call the family, have them come, say goodbye, because she's not going to make it out of this. And I was slipping deeper, because I remember slipping deeper away. It went from I was in a vegetative state, and I would wake up. When I was awake, I was aware, not aware of my body, just aware of everything going on around me. And I remember seeing my arms like this, and they had things to hold my hands open. And I remember thinking I don't know what's going on. I was just confused. and then I'd go back out. So I was like in and out of consciousness. Now, when I slipped out the last time, I ended up in like a very peaceful, loving void, which is what it's called. It's just peaceful darkness. Imagine just, it was like I was being swaddled in darkness. It really was. I wasn't afraid. I was completely at peace, completely accepting of whatever was happening. It was just no fear at all. And the last time I woke up, my entire family was around my bed, and I'm talking aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmothers. My grandfathers had passed at that point, but I know they were there in spirit. My parents, my siblings, all around my bed saying goodbye to me. And I woke up, and I remember scanning all of them thinking, like, why do you look so scared? Like, I'm going to be okay. Like, I knew, and I couldn't speak, but I kept saying, I'm going to be okay, guys. I'm going to be okay, because they looked scared. I didn't know what I looked like, of course, but like I knew I'd be okay. I remember looking up at the pole, wondering like, what are they giving me? So like I was fully aware I was in the hospital, but I guess because I'd been sick and I was in the hospital way prior to, you know, having this experience, but I came back knowing I'd be fine, and I did. I pulled out of it. I woke up. I had to take a minute. I had to get my speech and being able to walk, you know, some of those basic things back. I had to work for that. But after that, I was very intuitive. Like my father always even said, like she always knew what to do with for herself, you know. So I would, even to learn how to talk again, I would listen to music and try to keep up with the words. And it's just ever since going to that void, I don't fear death at all, not even one single bit. If anything, when I came out of that, I figured that wherever I was, I want to do as much good on this earth so I can go back there. That's how peaceful it was. It wasn't scary, because a lot of people think the dark would be afraid, like a scary place. Not at all. I don't know if it was the beginning of the tunnel, some people say. I am not sure. I just know it was complete peace. And I had had a long go at a lot of pain in my physical life with the chemotherapy treatments. So to be in peace like that was just, there's no words. There are no words to describe that. Coming back, however, was a little bit rough. Because you come back to the body and there's a lot of work, there's pain, and you feel the pain and you know, of your body, of being in your body. But from that point on, I knew I wasn't my body. Because first of all, my body didn't work, but my mind was perfectly clear. So even at that age, I just said, well, clearly I'm not my body. Like it just came to me like that. And even after, when I pulled out of this state, I had so many doctors just come like see what I was, because they even said that was a miracle because we did nothing. They didn't know what to do. They basically put their hands up and said, she's a goner. I mean, and I don't blame them for that, because there was no evidence from any other child that I was going to come out of it the way I did. And it was a teaching hospital. So, I mean, I had doctors galore just come in to come see me. And my thoughts from that, just seeing that, I always thought to myself that I must be here to keep doctors' minds open. So I became a nurse. And it's been an amazing, you know, ride ever since then. I don't fear death. I know I'm on like a journey, and anybody who has ever met me knows that I am like a fun-loving person. Like I don't take life too seriously. I love life, even with the ups and downs. I am super grateful because I am aware that I dodged a major bullet. I could be trapped in my body right now, not being able to talk to you, not being able to, you know, walk around in the parks that I love in this area, or enjoy nature. And so I know how lucky I am. And that alone puts me in this like a bliss-filled bubble where I'm actually was given a major second chance, because like even the doctor said to my parents, she would be better off dead. They didn't beat around the bush in 1995. They just kind of gave it to you straight. Like, she'd be better off dead than be trapped in her body. And like, so cancer was scary, but being trapped in my body was a lot scarier than that. So I actually blocked that memory. I blocked the memory for about 20 years until it was triggered to come back up, and the memory came back exactly when I needed it to the most. And it came back, and it gave me a whole new zest for life again. So, interestingly enough, I love sitting in the dark. It makes me feel like I'm back there. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is just a journey, like, and it's very short life. We think we have time, we don't. That's why it's so important to just do what you want, do what you feel is best, follow your lead, strive, and anything actually is possible. Like, anything is possible. Like, whatever you put your mind to it, like, you can bring heaven to earth. You truly actually can, with whatever you put your mind to. So I learned, how important my mind was from way back when. So I made a full recovery, and that stunned doctors. They definitely did not think I was going to make a full, total recovery. And, walking out of that hospital with my head held high, and I worked hard to get there, though. I mean, it wasn't like snap a finger and I was back and everything was perfect. I had to work to get to that point. I had to work to get to speaking again and walking again. But I just, after having to go through that, I knew anything was possible. So then, I ended up I had about 18 more months of chemotherapy to go through after that reaction. And I had more adverse reactions, just not ones that would kill me, but, they caused a lot of damage to my body. But still, I was grateful. I didn't care about the pain. I was able to talk and walk and not be trapped in my body. So I was grateful. I just remained grateful. And I think even the chemotherapy treatments I had to go through after that wasn't even that big of a deal to me. Because, like, I could be trapped in my body right now. So whatever. I just always was just grateful. So then I made a full recovery. I finished on my cancer treatments. I went into remission. I stayed in remission. I went through high school. I met amazing people, had a blast, because by the time I got back to school, it was like 11th grade. So, I had like 11th and 12th grade. I went out in 8th grade, but I was out of school for all that time. So I had so much catching up to do just to be a teenager, so, and my parents were really good with me, letting me have my freedoms. And so I just had a blast. I just lived it up. We had so much fun, me and my friends. Then in my 20s, I always wanted to be a crime scene investigator, but because I have physical issues from the cancer treatments, I can't really do that job because you have to be a cop, and I can't do the physical side of that. So I just always kept in the back of my mind, death clearly fascinated me, and the human body fascinated me because mine just came back and did its own thing. I didn't know how that happened, but I knew how remarkable the human body was. So I ended up drawing in a job as a pathology assistant at the local hospital. So I got this job as a pathology assistant, assisting pathologists in the gross room, doing certain special staining and whatnot was part of my job title. But part of the job also was assisting the county medical examiner in autopsies, because they worked at the hospital I worked at. So I would assist the county medical examiner in autopsies, and that job didn't scare me one bit because I knew those souls were in an amazing place. Like, I knew they were in a better place, that this was just their vessel. I could never have done that job if I didn't know that to my core. If I didn't know that those souls were in a much better place, I just don't think I'd be able to deal with death face, like in my face like that. It's the type of job you definitely have to be able to deal with a lot. I've seen a lot. I was so young, and I had blocked out the memory of my experience because it was so scary. So the fact that I was drawn to work with the dead is quite interesting, that I didn't actually remember my experience yet, but I was just so comfortable with being around the dead. So that's interesting, but I know why I was there. Like I could feel the souls there sometimes. Some of these, were traumatic deaths. Most of the medical examiner cases are homicides, suicides, car accidents, unattended deaths. So it's very traumatic deaths. And sometimes that can shock the soul. So I would feel the soul there at times, and just to that soul inside, not saying anything outside, because obviously, I got sheriffs and doctor. I'm gonna look like a crazy person if I start talking to spirits right in the middle of the room. But like, I was comfortable enough to be around them to be like, it's okay. Just show love and compassion to this soul that is a little bit confused right now that they are dead and they don't know what to do, because it's within the first 24 hours we would do these autopsies. That soul is still transitioning at that point. Most of these deaths, like I said, were traumatic, so it was a shock. So I just hold space, just let them process. But there was one case that just shook me, because I empathize so heavily with this case, and like, this soul's with me. I know he's like a guardian angel, or whatever you want to call him, a guide. It was a man who had end-stage lung cancer, and he committed suicide because he couldn't take the pain anymore. And when the case, we had the body on the table, I was the assistant, I did all the cutting, and I would hand the organs to the doctor, who was standing next to me, and there would be sheriffs to take pictures because it's a crime scene, so, to get evidence or whatnot. And just that man laying on that table, my heart bled for him, because I knew how much pain he was dealt with. Like, I had been there. I had cancer. This guy still had the fentanyl patch in his arm. Like, in the middle of the room, it was like me and this soul, and I put my hand out on his arm because I just empathized that heavily, and I immediately got a flash of what he did. And my eyes just filled with tears. And meanwhile, there's sheriffs and a doctor watching me do this. Like, so one of the sheriffs came over and like put his arm around me, took me under his wing, whispered in my ear, like, you have to disconnect from these cases or you're going to lose your mind. And I'm happy he told me that, because that case shook me. But I learned from those souls. So I learned lessons from what they had been through. So I always felt like I could learn a lesson from them for them, so it's like, these people are not dying in vain. I just wanted to be it is very much a sacred role working with the dead. You can definitely feel the energy of that spirit sometimes. Most people who work, in a morgue or work as, in funeral homes or whatnot, you can actually feel the soul there at times, and it's closure for the soul before they cross over fully. And there were times, and like I said, that one man, just that soul is with me to this day. Like, I feel him with me, and he reminds me to keep going, and to live for him. So I do, and I live my life to the fullest for that man. Not only him, but, the people who have died from cancer. That I always looked at my life as like, I got such a second chance. I have to live to the fullest and do, live my dreams. So after a while of working in the morgue and whatnot, I started to feel like I had to start working with the living. And that's when I went to nursing school. And I loved it. I actually ended up graduating with honors, which, I was sick as a kid. I learned a lot I learned from the best, like best of the best, the doctors and nurses and whatnot. Like, I strive to, I have always strived to make them proud too, So I always wanted to be a nurse, because I loved my nurses. And I wanted to be just like them. Plus, my grandmother was a nurse. My mom's a home health aide and runs in my family. So I was like, I'm doing it. And I went into that job, and I wanted to be a pediatric nurse, but I started out as a licensed practical nurse. And I was like, I'll work my way up to RN so I can work in pediatrics. But in home health, you can work in pediatrics as an LPN. And that's what I worked, home health. And my first patient, when I looked at her, she had the same type of issue as I had when I was in that vegetative state. It was the same wording, just a different type. And when I looked at her, it was like I was looking at myself in that state. And I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. I'm like, that blew my mind. I knew how to communicate with her. I knew how to take care of her. A lot of the cases I've taken are neuro cases because I use my intuition in that way. My medical intuition I use because my patients cannot speak to me. So I have to figure out intuitively what they need or how to communicate with them. So that is how I use the medical intuition in that sense in my nursing career. And most nurses are intuitive. Like, that's how we care for our patients. You know, you make that bond and you know what they need. So I always use my intuition in that regard. And things were great. I was a nurse. I, had finally done it. I was so happy. And then I had a loved one pass away in 2014. And her death took me to my knees. Like, I couldn't understand why she died and I lived. I had a lot of survivor's guilt, which cancer survivors tend to have survivor's guilt because you watch your friends die and you live, and it's confusing. You don't know why you survived. So that came up, and this was like 2014, and it took me to like a very dark place. I really didn't want to be here anymore. I started losing my faith in God. I had been trying to get pregnant for years. I was told I may be infertile, and it was pretty much looking that way. And I just was really losing faith at this point. Like, I kept saying internally, like, God, what more do you want me to do so I can get to this baby that I just want? Like, that's the only thing I've ever wanted my entire existence is this baby. Like, I just want a kid. So then when my loved one passed away, it just took me to a dark place because I was already depressed. And then I started to really lose my faith. And then when I was in this dark place contemplating, like, why am I here? Why am I still here? Like, I don't get this. I'm in pain every day of my life. Like, I do have chronic pain. Like, why would you send me back? Just to, and I know I'm here to help people, but like, I just couldn't understand why he wouldn't have just taken me instead of, her. And then I was sleeping on the couch, and I'm going to say this was an out-of-body experience because it was definitely a spiritual experience. She came to me, and I remember waking up in my kitchen, and she was in front of me, and I was like, I was like, okay, I know she's dead, so how is she in front of me? But she looked like an angel. She looked angelic, like herself, but angelic. Like the light. She was glowing, like the light, right? So I was told, thank you for all that you've done, and I was hugged. So I was literally hugged by an angel. And I woke up, and I felt this peaceful feeling come through from the top of my head all the way down my body, out the bottom of my feet. And I laid there and cried because I knew I had just hugged the light. Like, I just hugged an angel, and I just cried and cried. And then 2 months later, I became pregnant with my son. I knew everything to do to get there. I knew visualizations, meditations, herbs to take, things that I could do. Intuitively, it was like a download I got from this experience. I look back, I see it was the dark night of the soul. And it was like almost an initiation into motherhood for me, because that was the biggest thing I've ever wanted in my life. And when I found out I was pregnant, I mean, even my husband at the time was like, we couldn't even comprehend, like, this is real, this was like this baby we wanted so bad. And so, I mean, I even had to put the ultrasounds on the fridge because I couldn't, it was like, I thought I was dreaming. Like, I was literally living in a dream. Like, to feel life grow inside of me, that just gave me a whole new respect for my body, which I had been at war with for years because I had a lot of issues from the chemo. It really messed up my body. So, like, to actually feel life grow inside of me and like, it was amazing. It was so healing. And when I gave birth, it was interesting because when I was pushing my son out, I heard the nurse go, okay, on the count of 3, push. And I heard 1, and then I was gone. And I ended up in the peaceful void again. And I came back to her saying, good job. So she said 2, 3, and push, but I was not there for that. And they say that childbirth is like an out-of-body experience, and it truly is. It was like an initiation. My son initiated me into motherhood. I'm now his mother. Like, it was the biggest moment of my life. And I am so grateful because I was in such a dark place. Such a dark place. And I cry because I think if I had given up, I was this close to my son. And I would have, like, missed out on his whole life. So every time I look at him, it's like I feel God's love. I feel what I felt as close as it can get on earth to God's love, and what I felt in that void through my son, through that unconditional love from, that I have for my son. It feels like God's love, and that is, I think our children absolutely are like God's love. It's unconditional, bountiful love that you have for your children. And, I feel blessed to have been, made it this far. Because back when I was sick, doctors said maybe I'll have 20 years. Like, they said, you might live another 20 years. And that was like a big deal in 1995 to have the type of leukemia I had, like 20 more years. So I literally took that as I only had 20 years to live. Like, I'm not even joking. So when I got past the 20-year mark, in my mind, I'm going, what? This was uncharted territory because I thought I would die at 20 years. Because I was a kid, so I took everything they said literally. So they said, maybe you'll have 20 years. And I was like, I only have 20 years. So now I'm 25, almost 26 years out. And I really have just flowed into this, like, really embracing and integrating my experience into my life to be able to help people. And the way I do that is with Reiki. I am a Reiki nurse. So I use Reiki on my patients to help them, and it's been amazing. Reiki is definitely starting to integrate more into Western medicine, and it's still not very well known. But then I start to think back to when I was younger, and I had all those doctors coming to see me and to, like, what is she? Like, how did she do this? How is she okay? Like, I had so many doctors, and I remember thinking, maybe I'm here to keep doctors' minds open. So being a Reiki nurse actually brings that to light, because doctors have to keep an open mind about energy medicine, but it really actually does help so much. And we're finding that more and more. Reiki is used more and more in Western medicine right now. And more holistic things are being brought in because that's the way that medicine's going. Like, we're integrating.
Can you define Reiki for me?
Reiki is energy healing. So it's a Japanese energy healing modality that just taps in. It helps to bring life force energy through, to open up chakras and to keep them flowing and the energy flowing so that, you can remain centered and that your energy system is flowing and open, because that way, you have a blockage. It can cause issues on every level of existence. So it can cause physical issues. Sometimes I do Reiki and it actually helps the pain. People have pain. It helps pain. I have chronic pain. I use Reiki on myself. Reiki blew me away. That's why I went into becoming a Reiki practitioner and master and now a teacher, because it has helped me to just gain control of my pain. So I'm trying to help others that can incorporate this into their life. If they have chronic issues, chronic health issues, chronic pain, this is such relevant things these days. And we need better ways to, help people. So more holistic approaches are actually being brought in a lot more now, into Western medicine, because obviously they're not going to use the pain meds the way they used to be. So we have to do this in a different way. So Reiki just helps to promote relaxation and balance within the nervous system. So it will help the nervous system to calm down, to go into rest and digest mode instead of fight or flight. So if you have a lot of stress and whatnot, and you feel anxious, you might be in fight or flight mode. So Reiki helps to just calm the nervous system down, flip it down to like cool down mode, and it opens up the chakras. It balances the chakras so that you're running at full capacity. So it can help to relax muscles and promote health and wellness, because then all of your organs are getting energy from these energy centers. So if they're fully functioning and working, then it can definitely help your wellness, your health journey. There's a lot of people are kind of shifting that way right now. But yeah, Reiki it's really starting to come into Western medicine, and I love it. I love it because, listen, I am a 25-year cancer survivor, and I wish I found Reiki sooner. So now I'm going to bring it to the patients. Now I'm going to bring it to them, because I wish I had it back when I had cancer, and they use it in oncology all the time. Oncology is very, very open-minded with that. And they have amazing results. The doctors are blown away at the results people get from Reiki. And I even, with my own patients, I've had amazing results. The parents are just blown away. Like, they can't even believe how much it helped their kid. And it's helped me. I use it on my son all the time. We tend to forget about our energy system, but it's very important to remember it, because that's you. You are the energy. You are, you want to feel calm and peaceful, not these days with everything going on. I think we all need a little more balance, But everybody's seeking to find themselves. Reiki just helped me find myself. Absolutely, without a doubt. My definition of a near-death experience would be a person coming close to death, or actually dying, the heart stopping, brain activity stopping, and the energy shifts up out of the body. This is my understanding of a near-death experience. It's an actual energy shift of your energy. You're no longer in your body, you're out of your body, and you're in, one with the universe. And that is when these experiences happen. It's when the body is in the dying process or has died, that energy no longer, like gravity, lets go of it, and you go into the universe again. So this is where these experiences are happening. You're going to your energetic field. You're completely in your energetic field. You're not in your body at all, because the body is no longer working to even keep you in the body. There is no gravity pull. There is no heart. There is no brain. This is my understanding of it. And some people say it's a neurochemical reaction, and I don't believe that. I believe it is actually an energy shift, where your energy just comes up out of your body, and it happens at the time of death. And for whatever reason, you are sent back to your body to finish, because your time has not come. So it is not your time to fully cross over, but you're basically getting like a reboot. And then you come back with more knowledge than you had before you went out. So that is my understanding of what a near-death experience is. An example that the NDE is not a hoax would be, when you come back from these experiences, you have synchronicities And there are after effects when you come back from these experiences, and hundreds of thousands of NDErs experience these after effects. If it wasn't real, if it was just a neurochemical reaction, we wouldn't have these after effects where your intuition is stronger, where your energy is stronger. There is, to me, that is proof it's real. As far as people not wanting to believe in near-death experience, I feel that we have to be a little more gentle with that, because these near-death experiences are meant to heal these people. And even in the medical field, because most of the times when a near-death experiencer comes back from these experiences, they're dealing with medical professionals because they're being worked on to save their life. And it's very important to help the NDEer embrace their experience to get the healing that was meant to occur with it. So, and then it has to be integrated into that person's life in one way or another. So it is very important to understand that just because maybe one person or two people don't believe in near-death experiences does not make it that they're not real. They are absolutely real. Maybe we don't have the words or the science to explain it right now, but every good scientist has an open mind because we don't know everything yet. So it is very important to, keep an open mind when listening to near-death experiences, because there is a base level to all of it, and it is that we are love. God is love. We are here to love each other and have compassion, and those are exactly what the world needs right now. So instead of judging, just listen with compassion. So the near-death experience should not be a promotion for suicide. Suicide, although there are many suicide, NDEers, they will even tell you themselves, don't do it. Because I have actually worked with suicide cases in the morgue with the medical examiner, and I can tell you that it's a lot of soul confusion when you commit suicide. When a person commits suicide, they immediately regret it, and they wish they could go back. There is not a hell necessarily, but there's a lot of confusion. And when you die at your time, and it's your God-given time, you transition in a certain peaceful way. Suicide is not the way to go, because it's a long-term solution for a short-term issue. The thing that you're going through is possibly meant to help you grow spiritually, and you have to get through it and come to the other side. You will see the light again. But suicide, near-death experiencers are not promoting suicide. Suicide is not, the answer ever. There are experiences, like I said, that have come forward, but I can tell you right now, I have been to a dark place before myself, and I've thought about it, just giving up. And then, like I said, 2 months later, I was pregnant with my son. Look at what I would have missed. So if you're going to take anything from these experiences, take the positive, that you're meant to live your life to the fullest, not take your life. That is the message we're getting across. Not to take your life. It will get better. And whatever you're going through, you will come to the light again. This is life. That's how you grow spiritually. And it's rough and it's rugged and it sucks sometimes. But guess what? We are meant to grow. We're meant to go through things in life. We wouldn't leave, heaven if we came to earth and everything was, unicorns and fairies and, rainbows. Like, that's not, we came to earth. We all came to earth to learn. You learn the hard way. When my passed on loved one came to me, now when I had my near-death experience, I was just in a peaceful void. I felt the love. I felt like I was the light. I didn't hear, I didn't speak, and then I came back, right? But then years later, I had another experience where I was I telepathically communicated with the light. I was hugged by the light. I was healed by the light. I spoke to the light, but without speaking, it was telepathically. Even when I came back from my near-death experience as a child, I telepathically was communicating with my family members, telling them, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, guys. Don't be afraid, because they looked scared. I could feel their fear. And so I definitely have had that experience where I telepathically communicated with the light. And then 2 months later, I was pregnant with my son, which I'd been trying for years, wasn't having any luck. And after that experience, boom. So the light, when the light hugged me, it gave me knowledge on how to get to my dream. I knew exactly what to do. It was a download of information. So it was no verbal speaking. We don't use our bodies to speak to spirits. Necessarily we're using our energy in our bodies, but I mean, you don't have to speak with your mouth. You can speak with your mind, just mental, telepathic communication. And that's how you speak to the light or to God or angels or spirit, passed on loved ones. When I had my near-death experience as a child, I felt the love. I felt the peace. I felt God's love. I was safe, swaddled. I felt like a baby swaddled by her mother in this, dark blanket of love. I did not speak to anybody or see or hear anything. But as I got older and I had another experience, I did experience the light. I was hugged by the light, and the peace I felt when I came back, because it was like an out-of-body experience I had. I remember thinking, I think I'm sleeping on the couch, but I was like in the kitchen with my passed on loved one who was in, spirit form. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you're dead. But I was hugged by this light. And I really, truly believe it was dressed up as the person I needed to see for closure. But it was God. It was the light. Kind of wearing, just my passed on loved one, that it really broke me, her loss. And the last time I saw her was in her coffin. And it just shattered me that's the last memory I have of her. So Spirit came in and gave me another memory with her to cherish forever, because now that's not my last memory was, in her coffin. It's actually, my last memory was in spirit. And I really do believe, though, thinking back, that it was the light. It was God kind of showing me what I needed to see and be hugged and thanked. And then boom, I was sent on my journey to my son. So I felt so much peace come through me that I knew I was healed at that point. Because it's when I came back to my body, I felt the peace just flow from the top of my head down my entire body, out my feet. And I just cried. I laid there crying. I felt so peaceful. And I was really in a dark place at that point. So that just pulled me right out of it. And then I got pregnant with my son 2 months later. So I was absolutely healed by the light and love. It was love and light that healed me. The NDE definitely gave me a sense of responsibility. Even though I was a child when I had my first experience, I always remember I sent back to help people. And in every job I've ever done, I've helped people. I've always helped people. I've always been that way, and just to enjoy life. Lead by example, enjoy life and embrace life. And so I feel like having the near-death experience, I am responsible to help people to learn how to live their life open-heartedly, so that they can experience, this blissful feeling of the light, because we all can experience it. You don't have to have a near-death experience. It's just the people who've had a near-death experience have been awoken to show other people how to live life open-heartedly. So I definitely feel I have a big responsibility, And ever since God gave me my son, which I prayed for forever, and I finally got to him, that makes me have a huge responsibility to help people even more than ever before. So yes, I definitely feel responsibility from having a near-death experience. When I had my near-death experience, I don't feel like I was given a choice to come back. I just felt like I had to come back, especially because I saw my family look so scared and I knew they needed me. They couldn't handle losing me. So I fought to come back. When I fell into like a dark night of the soul depression, I do believe I had a choice. I could have taken my life, but I fought through it. And then I was like gifted my son because I fought through. I think, I do believe if I would have done something, like tried to commit suicide, I probably wouldn't be here right now. Because I don't feel that I would have been given the choice to come back. I think it would have been game over, and then I would have realized I missed my chance with my son. And I would have massively regretted it at a soul level. But with the first experience, no, I just knew I had to come back. Like I knew I was worried about my family. So that made me fight to come back. Like, I need to go back. Okay, you're back, and then I knew I'd be fine. Everything was fine and everything did end up being fine. But I don't believe I had necessarily a choice. I just knew I had to come back. So I'm assuming that if that knowing was spirit saying, this is not your time, go back, because I knew I had to go back. I did not have a choice. I did not. So far, the only time I've had a choice is on a physical level, where I've been depressed and I've thought, there are times we all fall into these dark depressions sometimes, especially nowadays. And yes, the thought of just not wanting to live anymore can cross a lot of minds, especially after what we've all been through. But there is a choice, there is a choice to fight through that and, to get to the other side of that. And then you realize how much more beautiful life kind of looks after you get through that. And you're proud of yourself for fighting through it. And I think Spirit's there the whole time cheering you on, to keep going. So in my near-death experience, I did not have a choice. On a physical level, at one point, I thought I did have a choice. But I still fought. I fought to stay, but I definitely don't feel I had a choice so far. I know some people do have a choice to come back or stay. I honestly believe that God sent the light to me at my house. And this is true. Like, this is how I feel about having a choice. I always thought about that, like, why would God send the light to my house? Like, how boring. Bring me to the other side, you know what I mean? But then I look like, if God had brought me to the other side, and I felt that peace, and I was in heaven, and then sent me back, I'd be so depressed. Like, it's actually depressing to come back from the other side. It can be depressing, because it's all peace and love and you feel no pain or anything, and then boom, you're back in a body and you feel pain and depression and anxiety and everything that comes along with having a body, So I truly actually believe I was sent the light to me in my house, like to heal me, because had I been brought back to the other side, I would have been like, no, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not leaving. Because it does. It feels like that. Like, you're so peaceful. It's so peaceful. You don't want to leave. And then you realize that you can communicate with your loved ones anyway. Like, you're still there. I mean, not physically, but yeah, that, I don't think I've ever had a choice, really. Unless it was, like I said, on a physical level, you think you have a choice. I feel the source of God is always around us and with us. And God wants us to love ourselves and others and learn lessons, because that is why we incarnated on this earth to begin with. And as we do that, we help the planet, we help God. It's hand in hand. So I believe that spirit is always with us. Our passed on loved ones, God, angels, guides, ancestors, we are guided so heavily that we have no idea. Like none of us. Some of us are fully aware, but we all have that guidance. Not just near-death experiencers. Every single person has a spiritual team. You are guided and protected more than you will ever know. And you're loved more than you will ever know, or even be able to comprehend how loved you are. Like I said, the unconditional love that I felt in my near-death experience, I get through my son. That's the closest thing I could possibly describe the love. But the amount of love that God has for you your body can't house it. And you feel it when you leave your body, when you cross over, and you're fully in the light. But God is always with you, because love is always with you. God is love, and love is God. And you're so fully loved that we can't comprehend it. It's hard to comprehend how loved we are and guided, very heavily guided. Everybody, every single person on this earth, we are all connected. We're all guiding each other too. So, God wants us all to love each other and to love ourselves fully, unconditionally, like he does. To anybody who has lost a loved one, or, someone is terminal right now, I just want to let you know, I've actually been there, because they thought I was going to die when I had cancer, and they prepared me to die, and I accepted it fully, and that was part of, palliative care. Like I said, it was, part of that was to accept death. What I can say is they're in such a loving place. If they passed, they're always with you. You can call on them, and they will answer. You just have to be open-minded and open-hearted to get the communication. But they are always there with you, and they will show you signs if you ask. That's for people who have passed. Anybody who is terminal, they are half in and half out. They have 1 foot on the other side and 1 foot on earth, and many hospice nurses speak about what they see their patients doing at the end of their life, and it's reaching up at the ceiling. It's, saying lucid moments of saying what they're seeing spiritually. They're actually transitioning in a very peaceful way. And it's a very peaceful thing to die, actually. Death is beautiful. It is just as beautiful as birth, but we fear it so much because we think it's the end. It is anything but the end. It is just the beginning. So it's hard for us who are left on this earth to deal with the people we have lost, but those souls are in the most beautiful, peaceful place you can ever even imagine, that you couldn't even comprehend. And they are with you, and they live through you in your heart, because the love you had will never die. So that love is what connects you to heaven. So that is how you can stay connected to passed on loved ones, who will show you that they're there. You just have to, if you communicate with them and ask for signs, you'll see them. And they will absolutely show you, because if you ask, if you ask and you shall receive, you have to ask first. So I would say it's much harder for us physically in the physical realm to deal with the loss. But death is a beautiful birth into a new transition of life. It's just a continuation of life, just without all the pain. So after I had my NDE, the changes that I came away with, first one was heightened intuition. Like I just knew things that were going to happen. And my parents just always taught me to embrace that. I was never told I was crazy or anything. So that was a blessing, So I do embrace my intuition. So that was a side effect that came out of that. And my view of life changed. I just knew how lucky I was to be alive. So I loved life. And I felt like if I led by, example, and just like let it all out and love life and just be me, then I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do. So I just know how blessed I am, because I just think back, I could be trapped in a vegetative state right now, just staring at you, unable to tell you what I need. To think about that and where I'm at now, like the NDE just helped me to fully embrace life and to know I don't have long. I'm fully aware. So I am just more aware of the fact that this is a short trip. Even if I lived 80 years, that's a blip on the radar. In this, man-made time is different. There is no time. There is no time. It's all happening at once. So I've had some understandings of how things work come out of the near-death experiences that I've had. You absolutely have to love yourself in order to love others, because you have to heal yourself before you can heal others. And you're going to heal yourself with self-love, with showing yourself love. So when you get to that state where you love yourself to your core, your energy is different. You're giving off a different energy. It's a higher vibrating energy and will heal others. So you absolutely have to love yourself to love others. If you can't find peace in yourself, you will never find peace out there with anybody else. So you really have to find that love and peace and acceptance for yourself as a whole in order to show others that love. That's how I feel. You absolutely have to love yourself fully in order to love others fully. And that love will heal, because love heals all. Well, for fun, I hang out with my 4-year-old Declan. He is my best friend. He is everything I've ever wished for and more. We like to go out in nature or go to the playground. We just kind of hang out. He is the apple of my eye. He blows me away. He's very intuitive too. So I teach him Reiki and I teach him energy healing tips and techniques because I could see it in him. So I hang out with my little best friend. We go in nature. Really, that's my life. I am so blessed to be a mother that is what I do for fun. I'm a mother for fun. Yes, do I get tired? Is it exhausting? Absolutely. But I look at that kid and I feel God's love every single time that kid smiles at me. I just burst with love. Love I've never known on this earth, but on the other side I felt it. So it's my connection. I love connecting with nature. That's where I feel most at peace. I even notice my body relaxes when I ground my energy. So I like to spend a lot of time out in nature. And there's a specific park near me that I go to that the energy in this park is absolutely beautiful. And it is literally 5 minutes from me. And it is my favorite park I've ever been to. I love to bring my son there. We take nature walks. I will just sit there and meditate. I really do. I feel most at peace when I am in nature. I love to read and research. I love to research. I am actually pretty scientific. I worked as, a pathology assistant. So I always like to do a lot of research on, up and coming things in the medical field. And, I can see spirituality and medicine coming together soon. And that's exciting to me. So I do a lot of research on how can I help pull spirituality into medicine? How can I be of service? So I love to read, but mainly a lot of what I read, I'm like a nerd. I like to research. It's a lot of research so I can help others with the findings that I find, which pretty much, I'm a nurse and a pathology assistant I was. And so it all kind of comes together with the research that I do, and I don't know. It's for my own fun, though. You know, it's like it's not a job. It's like a hobby. I research everything. So, but I like to read. I love to read the near-death experiences. I actually do enjoy reading them because it makes me feel more validated. I feel like I found my people. Like, yes, people get this. Like, it's kind of hard, you know, when I never talk about it to anybody else. People just look at me like, okay. And I'm like, I'm going to walk away now. So, I mean, but mainly it's nature. I love nature. The reading, like I said, I do a lot of research, but because there is a lot of up and coming stuff. Listen to this. Regenerative medicine. My pain management doctor left pain medicine, went into regenerative medicine, opened his own practice. The future of regenerative medicine is vibrational therapy. What do you think of near-death experiences? Boom. So I'm going to tie that all in. I'll teach them. I think that is why I'm here. I really do believe the reason I'm here is to help doctors open their minds, keep their minds open. Y'all thought I was going to die. Y'all didn't think I was going to have a baby. God had other plans.